Maryland woman Jessica Marie Cross broke into a McDonald's in Columbia shortly after 1 a.m. on November the 5th of 2017. As shown in security camera footage, the 27-year-old tried to finagle her way into the restaurant through the drive-through window. She initially tried pouring herself a beverage while leaning in through the window but was unable to reach the soda fountain. Cross subsequently squeezed her body all the way inside and proceeded to pilfer various items from the store. In addition to the soft drink, she stole $1,400 in cash, a purse, food items, and Happy Meal toys, according to the Howard County Sheriff's Office. After 22 minutes had passed, Cross returned to the drive-through window with a large box containing the stolen items. She then left the box there and exited the building to pick it up from the outside. An employee arrived at the restaurant at about 5 a.m., at which point they noticed that the cash registers were disturbed and the office door was wide open. Cross had unsuccessfully tried to erase the surveillance tapes, wiped her fingerprints from around the store, and even washed the cash drawers to remove any traces of her DNA. She was nevertheless identified as the robber and agreed to turn herself into the police on charges of burglary and theft. Number 20. Shooting of Khabibzakaj. 38-year-old Khabibzakaj, who produced rap music under the name The Big Payback, was involved in a broad daylight shooting at a McDonald's in Palmdale, California on November the 6th of 2014. Shortly before 12:30 p.m., an individual entered the restaurant located at Avenue S and 47th Street, where Zakaj was eating alone. As witnessed by roughly 30 people, the suspect walked up to the rapper, produced a firearm, and gunned him down, then fled the scene. According to eyewitness testimony, the two men didn't interact prior to the outbreak of gunfire. Zakaj was struck in the upper torso by a single bullet and he was pronounced dead at the scene. About 20 minutes later, the victim had amassed more than 500,000 views on YouTube with the music videos he made as The Big Payback. Though details about the ensuing investigation were scarce as of November of 2023, one of Zakaj's friends told a local media outlet there was no altercation. This guy just walked in through one door, shot him, and left out the other door, so it looked like something personal. Number 19. Ronald McDonald Mob. On September the 23rd of 2017, 15 people dressed up as the famed fast food mascot Ronald McDonald and marched into a Burger King in Minehead, Somerset, a coastal town roughly 165 miles west of London. As shown in cell phone footage, the mob of Ronald McDonald started chanting profane but playful taunts at Burger King employees. Bystanders seemed to revel in the hilarious display of showmanship between the rival fast food behemoths. Subsequent reports revealed that the group of red and yellow-clad clowns was something of a local staple. They were known to dress up as Ronald McDonald every year as part of an 80s weekend. An eyewitness stated that after chanting at Burger King workers for about 5 minutes, the McDonald's loyalists shook hands with the employees and left the restaurant. 18. Huntersville armed robbery. During the early morning hours of December the 14th of 2019, a red Ford Explorer pulled up to the drive-through window at a McDonald's in Huntersville, North Carolina. A male suspect wearing a white hooded sweatshirt with black lettering reportedly pointed a firearm through the window. He proceeded to hold the employees at gunpoint as he and his accomplice robbed the restaurant, which was located on Boren Street just off Gilead Road. The incident culminated with the two suspects speeding away in the Explorer. As of the most recent updates, law enforcement had released very little information about the armed robbery, and it wasn't clear if the suspects had ever been identified or caught. Number 17. Indianapolis Fight. A young woman threw a tantrum inside the McDonald's at 7229 East Washington Street in the Eastgate area of Indianapolis after workers allegedly got her order wrong on the morning of August the 6th. of 2020. 2 months after the incident, law enforcement released the surveillance video calling on members of the public for help in identifying the female customer. In the clip, the woman was shown arguing with one of the workers about her order. As tensions escalated, the employee delivered a slap across the woman's face. Enraged, the unhappy customer hopped over the counter and tried attacking the employee, who retreated into a back office and closed the door. The young woman proceeded to throw various items at workers, including wet floor signs, a trash can, plastic order numbers, and a plexiglass barrier, which struck someone on the head. A man later identified as a retired law enforcement officer was shown trying to de-escalate the situation by holding the woman back. After about 4 minutes, the suspect left the restaurant before returning to throw one more thing at employees. The worker who was hit by the plexiglass needed to go to the hospital for a laceration on her head. No further updates had been provided to the public as of November of 2023. Number 16. Erica Chavoya and Sabrina Fontela. A vicious brawl broke out between a customer and an employee at a Las Vegas McDonald's on the evening of July the 25th of 2018. A bystander captured the brutal fist fight on cell phone video, which showed the two women getting into a profanity-laced argument from opposite sides of the front counter. At one point, customer Sabrina Fontela tossed a single French fry at worker Erica Chavoya from across the restaurant. The latter then marched around the counter, making a beeline for Fontela, who continued throwing things including a milkshake and a metal food tray. Chavoya, seemingly unfazed by the projectiles being hurled in her direction, subsequently grabbed Fontela and started pounding her in the head with a closed fist. Chavoya then threw the customer into a booth and continued the beat down as other staff members tried pulling her away. In a last-ditch effort, Fontela grabbed a chair to defend herself but was disarmed with ease by the employee. The two women were finally separated as the video ended. After being disseminated online, the cell phone footage went viral, amassing over 1 million views in a matter of days. In an interview posted on Facebook, Chavoya claimed that Fontela had been disrespectful towards her mother and talking a lot of smack leading up to the altercation. She also claimed that Fontela, who described herself as an exotic dancer on social media, couldn't afford to pay for a soda, prompting the verbal exchange that culminated in violence. Fontela, meanwhile, took to Instagram to share her side of the story, stating that the workers didn't want to take her money for a soda after she asked for a free cup of water. A spokeswoman for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department indicated that Chavoya had been issued a citation for misdemeanor battery in connection with the incident. Number 15. Food fight in Sydney. At McDonald's Wynyard location in Sydney's Central Business District, an employee threw a drink in a customer's face, leading to an all-out food fight during the early hours of June the 15th of 2023. In a cell phone video that later went viral, the customer, a young man wearing a pink sweatshirt and tan baseball cap, stood at the front of the line as employees worked in the kitchen. Suddenly, the cashier hurled what appeared to be some sort of coffee drink directly in the customer's face. The young man slipped on the liquid that had consequently spilled all over the floor. Once his footing was regained, he sprung into retaliatory action, tossing various foods and other items at the cashier. In a statement, McDonald's Australia later clarified that prior to the start of the video, the customer in question had been behaving disruptively. He allegedly went behind the front counter to interrupt and threaten crew members. The company went on to say that they were investigating the matter, admitting that the behavior of their employees in the video is not in accordance with their policies. Company officials also stated, "We will always do our best for our customers, but we won't accept abuse, intimidation, threats, or violence towards our employees." Local law enforcement confirmed that a pair of teenagers were taken to Day Street Police Station, where they were dealt with under the Young Offenders Act. Number 14. Daniel Willis Taylor. At about 6:50 p.m. on New Year's Eve 2018, an argument broke out inside the McDonald's at 4595 34th Street South in St. Petersburg, Florida. According to police, 40-year-old Daniel Willis Taylor, a transient from Clearwater, went to the counter to complain that he wasn't provided a straw with his meal. Upon being given a straw by worker Yasmin James, the man reportedly demanded another one using obscene and threatening language while doing so. As shown in cell phone footage, Taylor subsequently reached across the counter, grabbed James by the shirt collar and pulled her towards him. The 20-year-old responded by striking the aggressive customer multiple times until he let go of her. Taylor then went behind the counter before being escorted out of the restaurant by the manager. He allegedly kicked another employee, Tatiana Bell, in the stomach while she was standing near the exit. St. Petersburg police later received a call about an unarmed robbery elsewhere on 34th Street South, where they came upon Taylor and recognized him from the McDonald's security video. He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of simple battery. He pleaded guilty in February of 2019, and the following month he was sentenced to 60 days in jail but was credited with 58 days already served. He was also ordered to pay a $1,000 fine or complete over 100 hours of community service. The judge ordered Taylor to stay away from the 2 women involved in the McDonald's incident, as well as the restaurant itself. A woman claiming to be Taylor's mother posted on social media that her son had been homeless for some time and not able to find a job. Following the brawl with Taylor, rumors circulated online that James had been fired. However, it was later clarified that she'd been placed on paid leave by McDonald's. Law enforcement determined that she'd been acting in self-defense when she hit Taylor. Number 13. Savannah Brawl. A wild free-for-all unfolded at a McDonald's in downtown Savannah, Georgia, and was captured in a cell phone video that went viral on social media in April of 2023. A female customer wearing a red shirt was shown arguing with restaurant staff, and it would later be revealed that the dispute centered around the store's lack of sweet and sour sauce. The shouting match devolved into a bout of hand-to-hand combat when the woman marched behind the counter and punched one of the workers in the face. Another employee subsequently used kitchen equipment as a makeshift weapon, while others retaliated with attacks of their own against the red-shirted customer. In the midst of the scuffle, the woman's wig was pulled off. She tried to retrieve it, but the workers refused to give it back and instead sprayed her with water. Various objects from around the store were tossed about as the dust-up continued. 2 other individuals eventually joined the fray, throwing a yellow sign at the employees and landing multiple blows on the customer, which prompted her to finally leave the restaurant. The clip garnered over 1 million views in the aftermath, with many commenters siding with the employees. Number 12. Deandri Green and Rowena Triplet. On the evening of October the 21st of 2020, multiple gunshots rang out in the area of the McDonald's on West Peace Street in Canton, Mississippi. According to Canton Police Chief Arthur Brown, a car was waiting in the drive-through line when another vehicle came out of nowhere and opened fire on them. 4 people suffered gunshot wounds to the leg, chest, and arms. 3 of the victims were rushed to the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson in critical condition, while the 4th was pronounced dead. One of the critically wounded later succumbed to his injuries as well, bringing the death toll to 2. Police identified 20-year-old Deandri Green as a suspect, along with his girlfriend, Rowena Triplet, aged 23. A joint investigation by the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation and the Canton Police Department determined that Green and Triplet drove to the McDonald's on the night in question. Upon arrival, they spotted a car containing someone with whom Green had shared a previous altercation, so he unloaded a high-powered rifle at the vehicle's occupants. The 2 deceased were identified as Robert Luckett Jr. and Takari Johnson. Green pleaded guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder and was sentenced to 40 years in prison without parole. Number 11. Michael Morgan. A complaint about cold French fries led to a shooting at a New York City McDonald's on August 1st of 2022. Mother of 3, Lisa Fulmore, aged 40, placed an order on the McDonald's mobile app. Before going to the franchise's Brooklyn location at about 7 p.m. to pick up her food, the woman later told the press that the fries she received as part of her meal were cold, so she asked one of the employees to replace them. After about 10 seconds, the worker returned from the French fry machine with what Fulmore believed to be a fresh batch. However, after leaving the restaurant, the woman realized that the fries were still cold and returned to complain. Fulmore confronted the employee, who allegedly started laughing along with some of her co-workers. The woman began arguing with the store staff and eventually asked to speak with the manager, but was denied. Fulmore subsequently called up her son, Michael Morgan, who told her he was on his way to the McDonald's to settle the dispute. The woman told her son not to come because she didn't want him to get into trouble. Nevertheless, the 20-year-old stormed onto the scene and got into a contentious argument with McDonald's employee Matthew Jeremiah Webb, aged 23. At some point, the dispute escalated and Morgan shot Webb. The latter was taken to Brooklyn's Brookdale Hospital in critical condition. Morgan was arrested on charges of attempted murder and criminal possession of a weapon. His girlfriend, 18-year-old Camelia Dunlap, was likewise charged in connection with the incident. Investigators revealed that Dunlap had handed Morgan the gun that was used in the shooting. She consequently faced 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon. Upon being taken into custody, Morgan was hit with additional charges of murder and criminal possession of a weapon after it was determined that he'd fatally shot someone 2 years prior. The young man was accused of killing Kevin Holloman, who died from 3 gunshot wounds at 771 Herkimer Street, not far from the McDonald's in question. As of the latest developments, the case was still ongoing. On November the 7th of 2021, Amanda Nicole Martinez, aged 31, had ordered lunch from Sol de Jalisco in Temple, Texas, and went to the restaurant to pick it up. After returning to her home, she called the location to complain to the staff that the soup she'd ordered was so hot that it melted the plastic lid placed on the top of the container. She then reportedly returned to the restaurant and started yelling out insults before she proceeded to throw the container at a female employee's face. The worker, later identified as Janelle Browland, was left with a bloody nose and subsequently reported her eyes had felt like they were on fire. Police were called at the scene, but Martinez managed to leave the location before officers arrived. Fortunately, staff had taken photos of her license plate before she drove away and sent them to the authorities. Martinez was tracked down, arrested, and taken to Bell County Jail, where she was charged with assault causing bodily injury. The woman, who was also permanently banned from Sol de Jalisco, was released later in the day after paying her $5,000 bond. Number 8. Natasha Ethel Bagley and Genesis Peguero. 42-year-old Natasha Ethel Bagley and her girlfriend, Genesis Peguero, aged 27, went to the drive-thru at a Burger King restaurant in Miami, Florida on April the 2nd of 2019. They asked for free fries, but their request was denied by an employee. The couple then parked the car and entered the restaurant minutes later, where Bagley caused a distraction while Peguero jumped over the counter. The 2 women then reportedly asked the manager to open the register and give them all the money inside. The employee said Peguero punched her in the face when she tried to call the police and also threatened to hit her with a .45 caliber pistol. Bagley then joined her girlfriend behind the counter and also took part in attacking the manager before the woman ripped both registers and monitors from the counter. They eventually left the restaurant in their black SUV. The manager called the police, who discovered the vehicle was registered to Bagley. The 42-year-old woman was eventually arrested on May the 27th on charges that included armed burglary with assault or battery, attempted robbery with a deadly weapon, and criminal mischief. Her first charge had a potential sentence of life in prison under Florida law. Peguero was still on the run, according to information released in the aftermath of Bagley's arrest. Number 7. Brianna and Brianna Johnson. 26-year-old Anthony Rodriguez was serving tables at a George Webb restaurant in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin on January the 30th of 2022. He was the only staff member working the night shift when, shortly after 12 a.m., twin sisters Brianna and Brianna Johnson, aged 20, walked into the establishment. After placing their order, they allegedly began acting impatient and rude towards the employee. When their food finally came in, one of the women noticed a hamburger was missing and threatened not to pay for the order. Rodriguez then took back their food since they weren't willing to follow through on the purchase and threw it away. Afterwards, the duo was asked to leave, which caused them to become enraged and resulted in one of the sisters walking outside only to return holding a handgun. Both of them then attacked Rodriguez, who was punched and body slammed to the floor, before one of the sisters shot him in the face. The father of one survived his ordeal, but by his own account of the incident, believed he was going to die. He lost many of his teeth, suffered a spine fracture, and large bullet fragments remained lodged in his throat. Wisconsin police managed to track down the Johnson sisters and arrested them on charges of attempted homicide, although it wasn't made immediately clear which of them had fired the pistol. While awaiting trial, they were held in jail on a $100,000 bond and were facing up to 65 years in prison. Number 6. Rendoldus Chisholm and Kenneth Temple. 43-year-old Rita Roos, a night manager at a Taco Bell restaurant outside the Atlanta Highway in Georgia, was about to leave work at around 7:30 in the morning. On March the 10th of 2014, she was stopped by Rendoldus Chisholm and Kenneth Temple, who were both aged 19 and employed at the same fast food branch. The two men reportedly decided to rob the restaurant during their manager's shift because she was slow. The woman recognized one of her attackers, even though he was wearing a mask and jacket, and told him she knew he worked there. Chisholm would later confess to the police that he tried to run away, at which point the woman grabbed him. He then proceeded to shoot her twice in the forehead and neck. Both men ran to their getaway car but later decided to go back and see if their manager was still alive. When Chisholm approached her, Roche reportedly bit his hand. Both he and Temple began kicking her in the abdomen, after which one of them grabbed a car jack and struck her with it. Roach's lifeless body was found behind the establishment, while Chisholm and Temple were arrested later that day. They were taken to the Montgomery County Detention Facility and charged with capital murder. Further investigations revealed that there was a third man involved in the fatal incident, Jacoby Green, who was also charged with murder after admitting to the police that he'd helped the two men plan the robbery and then acted as a lookout while they perpetrated it. Number 5. Ryan Chinsky. On June the 30th of 2018, Amelia Holden, age 21, was working the night shift at Vinnie Van Gogh restaurant in Savannah, Georgia. She had just finished taking an order and was putting the menu back in its place when a man walked up behind her and groped her backside. The woman quickly turned around and grabbed him by the collar. As he tried walking away, she forcefully pushed him into the counter, yelling at him not to touch her. The man fell to the ground and Holden asked another employee to call the police. The aggressor was identified as 31-year-old Ryan Chinsky, a father of 2 young daughters, who was involved in a long-term relationship with their mother. The woman was actually at the restaurant when the incident had occurred. Officers arrested Chinsky upon their arrival, and he was charged with sexual battery. There was ample evidence in support of the charge, as the incident was caught on the establishment's surveillance cameras in its entirety. A clip was subsequently shared online with many commenters praising the stand that Holden had taken against the groper. Chinsky spent 2 nights in prison and was released on July the 2nd after paying his $2,500 bail. Number 4. Therese Dudnik Taffer and Jane Bloom. 73-year-old Therese Dudnik Taffer and Jane Bloom, age 76, were both having lunch on the terrace of the Parthenon Restaurant and Chevy Chase Lounge in Branford, Connecticut on March the 11th of 2022. As they sat in the outdoor dining area section, a driver lost control of his SUV, went off the road and crashed into the restaurant's terrace. Both Taffer and Bloom suffered devastating injuries after being impacted by the vehicle. Paramedics were called to the scene, but the women's condition proved too severe and they both passed away within hours of the crash. One of the restaurant's waiters subsequently told a media outlet that he'd seen the vehicle coming towards the establishment and had barely managed to get out of its way before it slammed into the building. 9 others were hurt in the accident, with 3 of them listed as being in critical condition, and another 3 hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. The driver, whose identity wasn't disclosed, survived and remained at the scene to cooperate with the authorities. Number 3. Rashal Hughes. On November the 5th of 2019, Rashal Hughes was working at a Popeyes restaurant in Tennessee when 55-year-old Deborah Stages came in to demand a refund. She claimed to have been charged twice for a $13.11 meal that she'd ordered 2 days prior. Stages had previously spoken to the manager of the restaurant on the phone and had reportedly been told to return to the location for her refund. Footage taken in the restaurant showed her and 29-year-old Hughes arguing at the counter, with the latter lashing out at the woman for allegedly using a racial slur and other employees attempting to calm him down. As stagers exited the establishment, separate footage showed Hughes running up behind her, picking her up and then body slamming her on the concrete. She was left with a broken leg, 6 broken ribs and fractures in her elbow as a result of the attack. Hughes was arrested and charged with aggravated assault following the incident, but he was subsequently released on a $20,000 bond. 2 years later, in March of 2021, he was convicted and given the maximum available sentence of 4 years in prison. Today's topic was requested by Cheyenne V8881. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Adam Kramer. On December the 2nd of 2013, Adam Kramer walked into the Olandras de Jalisco restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. The 28-year-old ordered 6 tacos, but when the cashier told him he had to pay for his food, he started sliding a large sword in and out of a 6-inch sheath he was carrying on his waist. He threatened staff that he would kill them unless he got his food for free. When a waitress called the chef to come and speak with him, Kramer's phone rang and he went outside to take the call, walking back to his black Toyota truck. The woman took the opportunity to go behind him and quickly locked the doors, rendering him unable to re-enter the restaurant. Kramer kept shouting death threats from outside the building before he ultimately returned to his car and drove away. The man was arrested the following day on a separate charge of assault with a deadly weapon. He was also charged with aggravated robbery for the incident that had happened at the restaurant and imprisoned in the Bexar County Jail with his bail set at $50,000. Stick around after number 1 if you would also like to watch our previous release about when restaurants go wrong. Number 1. Eid Muhammad Siddig. Patrons at a Manjaro's restaurant in Middlesbrough, England, were suddenly rushed out by staff in the middle of their dinner on Christmas Eve 2017. The customers were told that they needed to leave their food on the tables and exit the establishment immediately. Moments later, the police stormed in and helped evacuate the restaurant. The authorities had been called after a 41-year-old man named Mazhar Ali, who was the manager of a food company, had been fatally stabbed by 21-year-old kitchen worker Eid Muhammad Siddig. Ali was delivering chicken to the restaurant while Siddig was cutting meat at his station. When the employee turned around to see Ali standing right next to him, he was allegedly startled and lost control, stabbing the man once, killing him. He was tasered by officers, who then took him into custody. During the investigations that followed, surveillance camera footage from the day before the fatal stabbing emerged. Ali had been captured physically assaulting Siddig in the restaurant after a disagreement about a previous chicken delivery. However, the 21-year-old denied the allegation that he'd knifed Ali in retaliation for the previous altercation. The restaurant employee was initially charged with murder but eventually found not guilty during his trial in June of 2018. He was also cleared of an alternative charge of manslaughter and 2 charges of having a bladed article. Number 10. Nicole Campbell. In February of 2017, Nicole Campbell noticed something sticking out of her McChicken moments after biting into it. The woman had purchased a sandwich from a McDonald's drive-thru in Dungannon, Northern Ireland. She was almost physically sick upon noticing a thin, tail-like piece inside her McChicken. 22-year-old Campbell took it back to the restaurant, demanding an explanation. A staff member told her it likely wasn't an animal tail, but a wee bit of bone or skin. The young woman refused the food voucher she was offered, while restaurant management promised to investigate the matter further. After over a week of Campbell and her mother calling numerous times, a representative from the England offices contacted them, claiming the woman's horrific find had actually been a chicken vein. Campbell replied in disbelief and contacted a media outlet. The sample of her find was later sent to her in the mail without any note or correspondence. The issue was that, according to Campbell, the sample was of a different size and shape than what she'd found in her McChicken. Number 9. Gloricia Woody. In May of 2020, a woman in Oklahoma fired a handgun multiple times at McDonald's workers after an argument regarding the restaurant's dining area. 32-year-old Gloricia Woody had been told that the area was closed due to pandemic safety concerns. She was asked to leave, but refused, and a physical altercation ensued with an employee who sustained head injuries. Woody briefly left, but then returned with her firearm and shot roughly 3 rounds in the restaurant. One employee was shot in the arm while 2 others were struck by shrapnel in the shoulder and in the side, respectively. All of the victims were in their teens, but fortunately, none suffered life-threatening injuries. Woody was arrested and preliminary charged with assault and battery. Number 8. Gary McQuillin. In September of 2020, an elderly man died in a freak accident which occurred at a McDonald's drive-thru in Mansfield, Ohio. While some details of the accident remain to be determined, the authorities speculated as to how 69-year-old Gary McQuillin had lost his life. They believe that he dropped some money outside his pickup truck while waiting in the drive-thru queue. McQuillin opened the door to reach out and get it, but got trapped between the steel pole and his car. The man suffered severe injuries to his upper extremities and was pronounced dead at the scene. Number 7. Scandals in Japan, 2014. In August of 2014, a customer whose identity wasn't released found a human tooth in their McDonald's fries, which were purchased from a restaurant in Japan. Branch management apologized, adding that none of the employees had lost the tooth and that it hadn't been fried. The shocking discovery came amidst a number of food scandals that the company had faced in the country that year. On 2 occasions, pieces of plastic had been found in McNuggets orders. Plastic was also reported in a McMuffin, and a metal fragment was discovered in a pancake. These cases reinforced negative public opinion in Japan, while a high-profile scandal regarding expired chicken meat from a major Chinese supplier was also taking place. In spite of the restaurant's extreme popularity in the country, with over 3,000 branches open, 2014 was the year that McDonald's reported its first annual operating loss. Number 6. Shenika Torres. In February of 2014, a woman shot a 9mm handgun at a McDonald's drive-thru because her burger didn't have bacon in it. 30-year-old Shenika Torres was a passenger in a vehicle that went through the restaurant's drive-thru in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She became enraged after a first burger was lacking the specification of her order and was offered a free meal. Torres then found that the second burger was also lacking bacon, and that's when she opened fire. A bullet hole was later discovered at the top of a sliding window, about 2 feet from where an employee had earlier been standing. The woman was subsequently arrested and found guilty of felony firearm possession, carrying a concealed weapon, and intentionally discharging a weapon. For the shooting, she was sentenced to 3 to 7 years in prison. Number 5. Haley family. In 2006, Todd Haley, a passing coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, sued a suburban McDonald's for $1.7 million. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of his wife, Christine, and the couple's live-in babysitter, Catherine Kelly. The 2 women had reportedly eaten part of a McDonald's salad when they discovered a dead rodent inside. The animal was described as a 6-inch long juvenile roof rat, which was found on its back with its mouth open. The women became severely ill and, according to the lawsuit, suffered enduring physical damage. Christine, who was nursing at the time, had to feed her baby formula as she was afraid that she'd contracted diseases. According to Haley, the suit was filed after the restaurant didn't uphold its promise to resolve the matter. Number 4. Taiwan McDonalds bombings. On April the 28th and 29th of 1992, multiple bombings occurred at McDonald's restaurants in Taiwan as part of an extortion attempt against the company. The first device was found in a men's room at a branch in Taipei. It went off either during an attempt to defuse or as it was being removed. A bomb squad officer was killed in the resulting blast. That same day, another device was detonated in a telephone booth outside of McDonald's in the south of the country. In the city of Kaohsiung, the homemade bombs were activated by mercury tilt switches, meaning that explosions were triggered if the devices were moved or tilted. In a Taipei parking lot, the police found a soft drink bottle with an anonymous letter inside. It stated that several bombs would be placed at various McDonald's locations unless the company gave the attackers $240,000. Another device was discovered by the authorities nearby. The following day, on April the 29th, a bomb went off in Taipei's Yung suburb as a McDonald's manager was inspecting it after having found it in the men's room. One employee was hospitalized due to the explosion while the manager was left in critical condition. 2 customers were also injured by pieces of flying glass. Branches across the country were closed down, and a reward of $880,000 was offered for assistance leading to the perpetrators' capture. Chen Sui-se and Pan Chi-ming were arrested in May, and the death penalty was sought for both of them. A judge ruled against it, expressing disbelief regarding Chen and Pan's intent of killing anyone, as proven by them leaving a note instructing officers on how to defuse the bombs. Pan was given 15 years for supplying the explosives and harboring Chen, who in turn was sentenced to life in prison. Number 3. Alexandra Inga and Gabriel Zapata. For 2 days in December of 2019, McDonald's restaurants across Peru were closed to mourn the tragic loss of 2 employees. 19-year-old Alexandra Porras Inga and Gabriel Campos Zapata, aged 18, suffered fatal electrocution from a loose cable at a branch in the Pueblo Libre area of Lima. Inga was operating a drinks machine when she got electrocuted, and Zapata sustained a powerful shock as well when he tried to help her. The workers were pronounced dead at the scene by emergency services. In the incident's aftermath, protests were organized in the Peruvian capital, demanding improvements in workplace safety. In the public outrage that followed, others shared on social media their accounts of perilous working conditions, underlining a national problem. An agency investigated the matter, and McDonald's, if found guilty, faced a fine of nearly $60,000. Number 2. Worker crushed to death. In August of 2020, an unnamed McDonald's worker was crushed by a shelf of products in the walk-in refrigerator of the branch at which she worked, in Ostrowiec Świętokrzyski, southern Poland. Police told local media that due to unexplained causes, the shelf had fallen on top of the victim, only identified as a 31-year-old woman. She was found approximately 10 minutes after walking into the chilling unit, and efforts to resuscitate her proved unsuccessful. McDonald's issued a statement claiming it would offer psychological support to everyone involved, and that the company would remain in constant contact with the victim's family. Number 1. San Isidro McDonald's Massacre. In July of 1984, 41-year-old James Huberty told his wife that he believed he had a mental problem. The man was ill-tempered and frequently violent towards his spouse and daughters, going as far as holding knives to their throats. He was also paranoid, having become convinced that the US government was conspiring against him and that the collapse of society was inevitable after a drastic escalation of the Cold War. Determined to survive the impending apocalypse, he began stockpiling non-perishable foods and numerous guns. Huberty couldn't hold down a job, and eventually he and his family relocated to San Isidro, a largely poor neighborhood in San Diego. On July the 17th, he tried to get an appointment with a mental health clinic, but wasn't immediately called back. On the 18th, he told his wife that society had had its chance and that he was going hunting for humans. 45 customers were inside the San Isidro McDonald's when Huberty walked in, armed with a semi-automatic pistol, an Uzi carbine, a pump-action shotgun, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. He demanded they all get on the floor, and once they complied, he calmly started executing them. Huberty killed 20 people in the first 10 minutes. He was firing rapidly and alternating between weapons, so arriving SWAT teams believed that there was more than one gunman, while also entertaining the possibility of a hostage situation. One individual who'd escaped from the restaurant through the basement told the authorities that Huberty was acting alone and taking no hostages. Law enforcement was given the green light to shoot on sight. SWAT sniper Charles Foster took a position on the roof of a post office opposite the restaurant. Foster got a clear view of Huberty through his scope and fired a single round into his chest, killing him instantly. At the time, Huberty's rampage was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in US history. His rampage had lasted 77 minutes, during which he killed 21 people and injured 19 others. Thanks for watching. For an entire year, would you rather be forced to eat exclusively at McDonald's or have to use modes of transportation other than a car? Let us know in the comments section below.